Esoterica, the podcast.
Welcome to Esoterica, the podcast, where we discuss the obscure, offbeat, and unusual. I'm Chris Schultz.
And I'm Aaron Christian.
Today's episode is brought to us by Championship Vinyl, your one-stop shop for collectible records, LPs, 8-tracks, and CDs. Come here to find your obscure, offbeat, and unusual music. Championship Vinyl, located at 1500 North Milwaukee Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, or find us online at www.championshipvinyl.com.
All right.
Okay. Have you seen the movie High Fidelity?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Most of the times when we do these, I don't know what you're talking about, so I just let you roll with it.
Esoteric references.
That's the point.
Mm.
I'm usually too young. You're usually too old.
So speaking of
too old.
old.
The opposite of that. So we're going to do something today, as we tend to do on these episodes. We're going to be listening to a band, really like a one-person project, but I'm going to call it a band for sake of speaking.
Yep.
Pillbook. Pillbook is from Massachusetts. It is one person, Aaron Garcia, who I am familiar with through the grapevine from our local music scene. But I don't believe I've actually met in person, which is going to change for this episode. So I want to preface this by saying we're recording this episode on a Saturday, and I'm going to be doing this interview on a Tuesday night. Our episodes drop on Wednesday. So I'm going to do the best that I can to incorporate, some explanations from his perspective into this. But we'll see what happens, because we're kind of running on a short leash with this one when it's completely my fault. So,
Well, you're giving yourself a challenge.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So I'm prefacing that with this episode with that. So just keep that in mind when you take a listen. But we're going to be listening to the album that came out in earlier this year, so in like January of 2021. That's Primer Paso. Now, I was reading an article on 5x2records.com, which is the label that put out this record, and it refers to Pillbook as a psychedelic alt-pop project. There's some words I like in there, some words I don't really understand together in there, but here we are. And that's the point of listening to this record and, doing the esoteric stuff that we do. So that's as good of a introduction as we're going to get for this. But yeah, Aaron Garcia, Pillbook, 21-year-old bassist turned producer, yada, yada, yada. But I'll let him talk about what is happening. And we are also going to listen to the first track, which I believe is Hit Low. So welcome to another episode of Esoterica, the podcast. Joining me is Aaron Garcia. Did I say that correctly?
That is me.
Perfect.
Is me, yeah.
From Pillbook, or is Pillbook, I guess I should say, right?
Yeah, a lot of people refer to me as Pill, whatever kind of goes either way. Yeah.
So I really want you to tell us about you, because I know we were trying to put the blog post together for this episode, and we have like next to nothing. It's hard to pull up some info. So tell us a little bit about you and Pillbook.
Okay, so I guess I grew up in Chelsea, Massachusetts. Currently reside in Marlborough, Massachusetts. I make music. I make beats. I'm a producer. That's me. That's kind of me summed up. Yeah.
And so Pillbook is you also.
Yes.
And so how did Pillbook come about? I mean, has it always been just you, or were there more people involved, or?
It was a high school trio. It was a high school garage grunge trio that turned into a duo that recorded, our first EP, and then that turned into just me making music in my bedroom because I just really wanted to make music and I didn't want to pay $2,000 for an EP, basically.
I get that feeling.
Oh yeah. Yeah, dude.
And I tell you, I mean, you making stuff in your room, like the quality is fantastic. You know, from
Oh, thank you so much.
and that's the matter of it. You know, people like me when I first started out, it's like, you know, you think you have to pay so much money to get this like perfect sound, and the reality is that with the right equipment, you can do it all in your bedroom. And
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
people are making hits on their laptops more and more now these days.
right, especially
I
the
mean,
last year.
yeah, 100%. Oh, of course, man.
Yeah,
Like, yeah. Um, I guess it's just we're kind of transitioning out of the traditional way that music production worked with, which was this one guy, this one nerd is fascinated with recording music, and he has a ton of gear that he's, he's hoarded throughout the years. So you pay this one nerd to record you,
right.
and you don't think about that nerdiness. But now it's turned into, wait, I can be the artist and I can be the nerd as well. So that's kind of what I've taken up. you know, that's what bedroom artists have done now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's everyone's become their own expert in one way or another. You know, learning about
Yeah.
checking phase or all, you know, all these
Exactly. Yeah.
incredible things.
Checking your mixes in the Camry,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Uh, so, so we're going to be talking about El Primer Paso,
Yeah.
which is the record you put out back in January.
Yes.
And so, can you kind of talk through maybe like what was the inspiration or why did you decide to make this record?
Um, so this record I've been making it for the past like 2 years. So you know, I started this album when I began recording music, quote unquote properly. Like I've always, Pillbook, we've always recorded uh drums in the garage and guitar in the garage, like with Logic and just whatever microphones we could find. But I really wanted to do or to make nice, clean sounding recordings. And throughout that journey, I decided to write an album just to force myself to learn. So I would set deadlines, and I would do like a song a month, and then each song would be part of the album. And that's how I made the album, just learning how to record. So that's kind of why I decided to do the album. Yeah, and then it was kind of just committing to, okay, I've written these songs. I could easily just say, screw it, these are old songs, move on to the next thing. But I just really wanted to push myself and see how far I could take a project and carve it out to what I wanted it. Yeah, the songs on there are fairly old,
Mm,
for, like, from the original demos.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and what I like about that is it's the where it came from was a lot more of a technical aspect. You know, you wanted
yeah,
to push yourself
yeah,
more so than I'm not that there isn't any creativity in the song because there is, but that's not necessarily where it came from, is what I'm understanding.
yeah,
And I think that's really interesting because a lot of people are just like, I was mad, so I wrote an album, and
yeah,
sometimes that doesn't always produce the best work because you know
yeah,
you're passionate in that moment. You know,
yeah.
I know I've done that and looked back and gone, oh God, why did I let that become a thing? So I think
Yeah.
that's an incredible way of really thinking about it, and probably a good learning experience for you as well.
Yeah, totally. Also, I started writing it when I moved to
Hmm.
Marlborough, the suburbs. I'm not used to suburbs. I've talked a lot about how, I'm more of a city person. Um, and that's when I first started feeling like the quiet stillness of the suburbs. Um, and yeah, there's nothing around. I just worked one job, walked home every day and just kind of recorded, and it was a routine. It was just a grind. I would
Right.
sit there in this same room, on this laptop, and just, I'd get up to work like at 5:30 a.m., get home at 3, 4, 2, and just say, I am going to learn how to do this whole recording thing, and I'm going to learn how to properly write songs. So I'm going to sit here and do it. And that's what that was. It was a lot of just push, and it was miserable. I'll say that. Writing it was miserable.
Yeah.
Recording it wasn't, just because, I had already recorded the
Right.
sounds and all that stuff. But yeah, it was just kind of me just pushing through, kind of just screaming into the void of art. It's like I'm not in the best place mentally, so the only thing I could do is stress out about something else, basically.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I kind of want to move into for the record, talking track by track, and just talk about maybe like what the track's about, the inspiration for it, and it's just some of the production, even if you want. So whatever you feel is appropriate or
Cool.
monumental about the
Yeah.
track,
Yeah.
totally. So let's get right into it. Hit Low is the first track.
Yes, yeah, Hit Low. That one's about the first track that I decided to speak about my father and our relationship. An anger track. That was inspired by a lot of like, okay, so I guess the song is more about that, and then the sound of it is more trying to, mix rock and Latin music, kind of the stuff I grew up listening to. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, when I first heard the song, like I had heard it because I saw it shared, and I was like, you know what, like I gotta listen to this, and I was completely blown away because it was not at all what I was expecting, and what at least I could remember from Pillbook being, it seemed something different. So, and from the scene completely, knowing I know you and Pillbook through the scene,
Yeah, man. That was the first. I started off the album with that song because it was felt like a familiar sound out of all the songs,
Yeah, that's for sure.
Closer to what I used to make, the heavy stuff. So,
right.
Before I hit you with all the other sounds, let's just hit you with the short, heavier song. Yeah. He'll break you once again, my heart. He spit those words to me in a voice of an angel, said a little head in danger. He'll bring you back, he'll bring you back. Oh, won't you learn? It's an animal. Why won't you learn? Stay in one place, right, you will never.
So definitely a different vibe than what we've been hearing from you lately.
That's the point. Changing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so the reason why I brought this album to the table is because I saw that this record came out back in January, and I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to it. Screw it. And so I did it, and I was like, oh, you know what? This is different, but I enjoy it. So why don't we bring it to the table? Because, that's what we do. We bring music that is obscure, offbeat, or unusual.
Yeah. Definitely a poppy, but not your run of the mill.
Yeah, I mean it's not BTS,
Nope.
but it's not mainstream pop. There's like a pop element to it, but I think this 5x2 Records article that I found about this whole album really and more specifically this single, there are some rock roots to Pillbook, this rock, grunge roots, and like Latin music kind of coming together and involved with this. And I think we'll hear that Latin aspect a little bit more later. There's a line in here from this article. It says the debut single Hit Low specifically incorporates syncopated percussive guitar strums on top of layered bongos and vintage sounding drums. There are finger-picked guitars buried in the mix and almost rapped hip-hop vocals topping it all off. Excuse me. Wow, I can't speak. So there's a lot going on in terms of, layered instrumentation and styles, which I think makes it a pretty unique song to listen to.
Yeah. I'm at a disadvantage today because
there's no lyrics. We have to listen.
And I find, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, I listen to a lot of music, and I do tend, at least on the music that I personally like, I tend to focus on the lyrics. I find with a lot of pop songs, I have a hard time paying attention to the lyrics.
Yeah.
I think that's why I like difficult music, because if it's easy to listen to and enjoyable, I just kind of get caught up in it.
Right.
And, they could be singing about drowning babies, and I wouldn't probably realize it,
which is not what's happening here.
No, not at all.
Well, I think that's why we have the advantage here, because we're going into it blind. Like other than listening to it, like that's the only experience we get. We can't read here, but I think we have the advantage of having Aaron with us, and I think that's helpful.
Yeah.
All right. Our next track is called Daydream Theme. So following that is Daydream Theme, right? And
Yes.
that's said correctly.
Yes.
Which I guess the track after that also flows into it, but we're gonna treat them separately for purposes
Cool,
of the
cool, cool,
podcast.
Yeah.
So Daydream Theme, and this was I really enjoyed the sound, but I couldn't pinpoint what I wanted to call it. So I want to hear what your opinion is on that, because it's a very familiar sound in a way, but not necessarily to the scene, you know?
Yeah. Like in terms of stylistically,
Yeah,
like what? I don't know. It could be like indie groove. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, bass driven, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, I wrote that one. I wrote the song. It was a weird one because I wrote the song completely on bass at first. The entire, you know, arrangement and everything. I wanted to write the song that way just because why not? I'd never done that. So I just piece by piece, I just wrote the bass part, and yeah, I love the bass line to that one. Yeah,
That's
it's
a
a
fun
weird
one.
approach. Yeah, it's a weird approach, but yeah, came out cool. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember back, because we've recorded all of the episode already to this, so we've already said our thoughts, and I'm trying to think back to what we said. But that was the only thing I could think of. Was just in a way, you know, there's a familiarity to it, and I think that's a good thing, because we don't get a lot of pop in the music in the local scene, you know, and I think that there is a good positive poppy element to it. That's not pop punk or you know, some heavy metal or anything like that, you know.
Yeah, man. That was Daydream Theme is actually the last song I wrote for the album. I mean, not including the interlude sections. Full proper song. That was the last one I wrote. Yeah.
Go out with a bang.
Exactly.
So at first, when you were describing it, I was wondering how psychedelia was going to play into it.
Yeah.
It definitely had like it's sort of, you know what, I might not say psychedelic, but definitely trippy.
Yeah, I think you will at some point say that.
That was trippy.
I might be shooting myself in the foot saying this. Is this pandemic related?
How so?
Oh, there was a line you talk about, kind of like stay in your bed, stay in your room.
I did notice when we were on the Pillbook Bandcamp page that there were a number of singles that were quarantine
Right.
related.
Right. And maybe, you know, this could have been something written long, and we have the advantage of knowing that. I just got that vibe, you know. And actually, on that subject, like, isn't it weird to think that, you know, this time will be reflected that way at some point?
Yeah.
If not now.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were talking about this at work, being sort of bothered by TV shows that are now, you know, there's new episodes out now, and they're wearing masks on it.
Yeah.
I would be okay if, like, everybody in the TV industry made an agreement that we were just not going to acknowledge the pandemic occurred.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
What will be interesting to see is how movies deal with this. Like, you could just not set a movie in the 2-year, because it's going to end up being, you know, when all is said and done, it's going to be a 2-year ordeal.
Yeah.
You could just not set any movies during that time, or will we have movies that, you know, the pandemic is central to the plot? I mean, I don't know. But I feel like music is the best place to acknowledge and work out our feelings about the pandemic.
Yeah. I won't get into the theory of how music affects human emotion, but yes. And I will leave it at that.
No. All right.
So our next song is called What?
What?
So that goes into What, which is the next track. And actually, I didn't even realize they were separate tracks, because I was listening to it in the car, and I didn't even realize it. So it's mainly instrumental. If not all instrumental, right?
Yeah.
So
that was I don't know. I just wanted to the Strokes. The Strokes. That's all I have to say. I just want to
That
do
makes a lot
something.
of sense.
Yeah, the Strokes, Queens of Stone Age, that sort of vibe, just no
Right.
fucks given. I just wanted to do some mosh type shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the live show. If people are like, oh, I know the song already. I wanna give
When
that
that's
feel.
normal again,
Exactly. Yeah. Like that's the sort of feeling I wanna evoke, the moshy stuff.
Yeah.
And I that was in the original demo. It was all completely one song. But I was thinking in terms of like playlisting and stuff like that. Like, would a song that long with that ending necessarily fit? Um, Probably not. So I split it up, and that was the first time I had split songs up, and mastered it that way.
Mm.
And if I fucked it up, I fucked it up, and I'd learn it for the next time. Basically, that's kind of how I
Right.
tackled that. Yeah.
Okay, we're getting psychedelic here.
Yeah. I think that was a continuation of the track before, in a sense. But it's also its own thing. There was a different like vibe going on.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I think we should keep this discussion about as long as that song, relatively short, because there were no words.
Right?
But I like that. It was just when you listen to that in the car, like because it blends into the track before, like it hypes you up, ready for whatever comes next. So I think it's a good move by him to do that.
I concur.
Cool. All right, our next track is "Ugly End of the Room." So "Ugly End of the Room" follows that.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that.
That one is about struggling with self-confidence, and it's based on a made-up scenario in my brain where I'm sure I've gone through it, where you're at a party. Wow, even saying the word party feels wrong these days. Like, yeah.
It's such a taboo word.
Right. Being at a party and you see someone who you're extremely attracted to, but you just feel like you cannot say anything. You feel you can't approach them because you're just not confident. And I just wanted to kind of write a song about that. Just feeling like you're on the ugly end of the room, just kind of like these are where the losers hang out, and I'm hanging out over there, and you're over there, and I can't, that's the sort of feeling I wanted to touch on. And I wrote the instrumental first, and that just felt, it has like this weird, almost sexual, but not really kind of vibe, darkness. Yeah, it just felt right. Yeah.
And that's a very relatable feeling. I'm sure a lot of people, whether it's almost like you can create your own barrier there, even if you're not necessarily in a room with somebody, whether it be a text message or a phone call, even.
Yeah.
You still have that feeling.
Yeah.
I think that's great imagery, even if you're thinking of it literally. I think it's a good imagery as well.
Yeah.
And now, time to pay our bills. Hey, Aaron, have you heard about Anchor?
No, I haven't.
It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain.
Is it free?
As a matter of fact, it is free. It costs you no money. It comes with creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast. Get this, right from your phone or computer.
I've been looking for a place that I could distribute my podcast so it could be heard on like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Is that something that Anchor does?
Well, baby, you found it. Anchor does do that. Even better, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership.
To me, it sounds like it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
It is indeed. If you're listening and you've ever wanted to make a podcast, you should download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and get started.
I'll get right on that.
We did. Esotericofthepodcast.com. That song kind of was all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely, the guitar was definitely it had a psychedelic feel to it.
Right.
Getting it more.
I like that ending panning like guitar. You know what I mean? It bounced back and forth. Yeah. I want to do this drum thing like you mean like every Pillbook song?
Yeah, I'm digging this.
Pretty good, pretty good. All right, so our next track is I'm gonna screw this
Up.
Yes, Chris. Screw this up. I'm gonna butcher calling the next track by the right thing.
Do you want me to pronounce it?
Yeah.
All right. Descalza.
Yeah, see, I would have said it very white. And
Can you say it? Can you say it? I want to hear it. Go ahead.
Descalza.
I love it. You sound like you're saying salsa. That just translates to barefoot. That whole track is, I was at a restaurant with my mom, and she just telling me about how she grew up, and she was talking about how she remembers when she first put on shoes, and just about her life as a little girl, and why she loved her mom because she did everything for her kids, and it was just kind of sad. And so I recorded it. As she was talking, I just turned on my what is it, voice notes? Is that what it's called? Their voice record.
Voice memos.
Yeah, voice memos. Yeah. And I just recorded. We were at a restaurant in East Boston. We were just eating. I was probably having like those 3 tacos. Nice soft tacos. Yeah. I decided to add it to the track, and that's what set the narrative of the album. That one conversation. I think that track started with the little instrumental that I wrote. I don't remember. I think that's how it went. I don't know. It sounds like I tried making the beginning sound like an old tape.
Yeah.
And I just realized it kind of sounds like a sample. Like I just took it off Splice, but I sat there and recorded all that stuff. The inspiration was the Narcos theme song, actually. That whole da 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 type of thing. I forget what it's called.
Right.
Yeah, whatever that style is. And it just reminded me of like my childhood. It felt like a telenovela. It just has that, Spanish soap opera feel. And that's what I wanted to go with. That sort of vibe.
No tuvimos abundancia. En su momento aguantamos hasta hambre cuando estuvimos pequeños, porque mi papá nos abandonó, éramos 9, digamos. Mi mamá, pues imagínate, ahí luchando para nosotros.
So that word means barefoot.
Barefoot. Okay.
Somehow that makes sense.
What was the word again?
Descalza.
Descalza. Okay.
I don't know why it makes sense, but it makes sense.
I know that zapatos is
shoes. Yes.
Is shoes. Yeah.
Los zapatos. I took some Spanish in high school.
Yeah. Well, that's why we slaughtered the French names, because
we didn't take
we took Spanish, not French.
Yeah. Sorry, Jar.
A.
Yeah. So I don't speak Spanish, so I can't really tell you what she was saying in that song track.
It's probably relevant.
It's got to be. It's got to be.
But I like the sound of the room, like the background sound. It sounded like it might have been in a restaurant or cafeteria.
Yeah. I pictured like how I learned a lot in my Spanish classes about how like bartering is like a big thing. Maybe it's like one of those, just like those markets where like, you're doing
like
those
an open
things.
air market.
Yeah. It just because that seems like such a common thing in Spanish culture,
Yeah.
Like that's what I was picturing in my head. See, we can tell a story without any words being told.
Right.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
And that's esoteric. So this next track is the longest track. And I really like this song.
That's the name?
No. I really like this song. It's called Beta Version, in parentheses, to Dad. I've heard this song, so I know something that makes this go, oh, yeah. But you should listen to it. That's what we're going to do.
That's what we're going to do.
That's how this episode works.
Y'all get a sample, but we're going to
Right.
listen to it.
So here is beta version to Dad. So this is followed by beta version to
Yeah.
Dad.
Yeah.
My friend and I were actually listening to this today, and we were having a disagreement on what it's about. So I just want you to settle it and,
Cool.
and tell us what's going on here.
Beta version. It's I feel like so. Song beta version is about my father. Another one. Apparently I wasn't done talking about it, but yeah, I don't know, how the lyric came about, but I realized that my dad was the beta version of me. He was the fuck up version, and it's up to me to learn from his mistakes. Yeah, and that's once again just talking about our relationship and what it was like growing up with a father like him and stuff like that. Yeah, it was definitely a deep one. And what was I gonna say? I zoned out. There's something I wanted to say. Oh, the reason why I named it To Dad is because I'm pretty sure if he ever hears a song, I don't know if he will. He's not really on the interconnected web like that. But I think it's probably our last form of communication. Yeah,
Right.
That's why I called it that.
No one's out to stop him, but the world is out to get him. No, he said he started seeing some shit in the shadows. Probably tweaking, probably peeking. He's a beta version of me. Beta version of me from 69 to 99.
There's a significant amount to unpack there.
Yeah, and I'm hesitant to speculate as to what the situation is without having him talk about it, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those scenarios where I understand the words there, but I don't know the scenario or the situation, and but you can tell it's a very like emotional song.
Yeah.
You know.
Stuff going on with his dad.
Yeah.
Which would be a beta version of yourself, I guess.
Right.
Like. Wow, that's heavy.
Yeah. There's again, as we tend to say jokingly, but I mean sincerely here, there is a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
That's why I think we're really lucky to have this perspective today. So, but there were a lot of musical changes in the song that I think are worth noting. We did go through a lot of different not really genres, but different feels, different vibes, instruments. I think that was important.
Yeah.
So our last song is another short one. It's actually the shortest one. So the longest one's followed by the shortest one, called Primer Paso.
Primer Paso.
So this track.
Yeah. That one is once again, I just wanted to make a track that felt cinematic, and I opened the project file and just said, I'm gonna make something that sounds like the music to like a soap opera or something.
Right.
And I just recorded a little guitar, and I think I recorded the conversation with my mom first before I made the track. And again, it was just another conversation. It just felt right. It was on the phone. We were talking about my driver's license. I didn't have my driver's license at the time, and I was telling her how stressed I was, that I don't have a car and don't really have my life together as much as I'd like to.
Right.
And she just giving me advice about doing it. You just got to do it. You got to take the first step. It's a translation of the album, like Primer Paso. And
yeah. Oh, that's right.
yeah. And so that's
high school Spanish is coming back.
Yeah. And that's where that phone call came from. And I just made the track around it. Just wanted to do something that sounded kind of cinematic.
Joven, viejo, como sea, va a tener que dar ese paso. Y el primer paso es un poquito difícil, pero se consigue. Y bueno, ahí vamos. Para todo tiene que haber un empiezo. Yo tuve que dar el primer paso de tener licencia, pasé por todo y bueno, ahí vamos. Lo difícil es dar el primer paso.
So, without translation, we don't know again what that was about.
No.
I speculated that it was his mom.
I don't know.
I was just thinking with that song that was with the beta version of myself that where the Spanish speaking seemed to bookend that like maybe it was related to that and it was a family member talking about it's pure speculation on my part.
Yeah. This is, I think, the disadvantage we're at, not talking to him ahead of time.
Oh, yeah. So if you do, please, there's things we need to explain.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the questions that we're asking now will be answered. That'll be very helpful. So unfortunately, where our thoughts are not as prevalent here, because we're just kind of at a loss for words. I mean, there's just things we don't understand. We don't necessarily have access to lyrics, and it's kind of hard to decipher a lot. I think we're doing the best we can.
Yeah. Well, so it's an interesting juxtaposition because I think, and this will sound like I'm dissing ourselves, I think a better episode would be us having the background and understanding it and sort of discussing it from there. But I think it's an interesting perspective to hear our thoughts, not understanding it, and then learning about it.
Right. And I assume that a lot of you listening to this episode, if you went and listened to this album, you would probably be just like us and be like, I wonder, I don't know. What does this mean? This is cool. And I think the point of the show is to provide that extra layer of, okay. So that is El Primer Paso.
Well, that was interesting. That was enjoyable. I actually like that. I could see driving around to that. It's good music to just have on and kind of, I love the soundscapes again. That last track, the sound of the truck driving by.
Yeah.
And
cool stuff. I like the
cool.
Immersing the audio into reality.
It makes you feel like you're there in the moment.
You've heard of binaural audio, right?
Yes.
I've played binaural audio.
Yes, you demonstrated that
so
for me.
All of you guys need to do me a favor and go to YouTube and type in virtual barbershop and put headphones in. You have to do it with headphones and close your eyes. And you will be amazed. That is all I have to say. I really want to give you an opportunity now, if you have, not even just like as far as media goes or anything, but projects or anything you've coming up that you really want to promote, like just take the floor and push those things, or anything, accounts that you have that you want to follow, or all that.
Sure. Oh, wow. That one's difficult.
And it's hard to say with everything going on.
Yeah. I mean, I have like a bunch of collaborations that, I'm working on and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like just follow me and you'll see all of it just, on my feed at some point, because everything right now is just like, when is this being released and all that? And I don't know, but just follow me and you'll see what's up.
Yeah, and anyone that's listening can go to esotericthepodcast.com and look at our blog post for this episode, and you will be able to find links to all of the social media pages, on all that jazz, this record, all other records, Bandcamp, even anything.
Sick.
So it's all there.
Yeah.
So Aaron, I really want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me. We have the same name, so I just had a total.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
And I hope everything stays healthy with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. Seriously. I love stuff like this. It's fun.
With that being said, this does conclude our episode. As far as us talking, it's a relatively short episode, but with other things included, it could be longer. Yeah. So thank you for joining us on this fine Wednesday or day, whatever. Time's an illusion.
Until then.
Well, while you're checking things out, go to esotericthepodcast.com and check out all our crap.
Right.
You know what's there by now. We say it every week. But go check it out.
Please do.
Now, Until next week.
Stay esoteric.